Combat stance. Alright. So, what the combat stance is, that's basically the way that you're going to stand. The American Jiu-Jitsu Academy actually has two different names. They kind of changed it over a period of time, but for all sake of matter of this video, we're going to call it the combat stance. I think combat sounds awesome. I mean, it's like, ooh, combat, I'm getting in a fight. Like the old black and white TV series, Combat. Alright. So what the combat stance is basically your feet are diagonal. You got one foot, like if I'm right-handed, so typically I like that's more natural for me for my left foot be in front. So my left foot's in front, right foot's in the back. I'm not directly behind each other like this. If I was directly behind each other, my stability is bad this way, and stability is bad this way. So if I have my feet diagonal, I got more balance that way. Also, if I'm straight here, in the horse stance type thing or something, then obviously I got bad balance this way and bad balance this way. Alrighty. So your most typical stance that you get into anytime you're in a situation where you need to defend yourself is going to be combat stance. So your feet are diagonal, the knees are slightly bent. Doesn't mean you have to be all the way down here. Don't get me wrong, there are some situations where a really low stance could be advantage for, like if I was back against a wall or something like this and it was a corner I couldn't move nowhere. It'd be good to drop down. Alright, so for typically it's whatever is comfortable for you as far as how much your knees are bending. You don't want your knees locked out. If my knees are locked out, a strike or a kick comes in, I could easily strain and dislocate the knee. So knees are bent. If you can a little guideline is if it's comfortable and not pain for you, is to have the knees where you can't see the tips of your toes. Alright, turn around over here. Over here. Alright, so I got my knees kind of bent, I can't see the tips of the toes. And my feet are diagonal from each other. Now, one of the importances of this is just the fact of being able to be more stable. Alright, so however, it doesn't mean if somebody were to attack you, you instantly, before the situation escalates to violence or whatever, you got to defend yourself. It doesn't mean you go, alright? Because at that point, that person knows, hey, something's going on, this dude knows something or whatever. Alright? So you want to, basically it's kind of your secret. You want to try to save that information. Alright? So when you're here, basically your feet are going to be this position. Now another way of doing this without telegraphing that information is to bring them in a little bit closer together and drop your hands down. Now at this point, this could be a situation where I'm talking to somebody and I could have my hands up. One security guard I used to train one time, he would actually have his hands up like this when he's talking to people and everything. Not like this necessarily, but kind of have his hands together. And it's almost like you're begging for forgiveness or for them to understand. But the good thing about this position here, which is a variation of the combat stance, is the fact that your hands are still up by your head. The reason the hands are up by the head is basically to offer protection. You can take a shot to the body, but you can't take a shot to the head nearly as good as you can take a shot to the body. So it's more important to protect our head and have our hands up high. All right. So in a casual situation, I can be here and still have my hands here, and it doesn't look like a threatening situation, and it doesn't look like I'm trying to escalate whatever is happening compared to dropping into here. All right. Now you could even bring the leg back and still be into here. It doesn't look quite so bad, but as soon as them hands come up, hey, this looks like guy may think you're throwing a punch, and then he thinks that you're starting the attack or the fight and everything. So, now, on a note about the hands, the hand positioning, it doesn't exactly have to be the exact same spot, but a couple guidelines for it is you don't want to be doing this, because if my hands were in here, obviously you can see a big opening right here between, in the middle. And then again, I don't want to be doing X thing like one of those or Japanese animation guys, whatever. All right, so we're not crossing the arms in the kind of goofy way that get tangled up, and then again, we're not making a big opening. Typically, I keep my hands just slightly crossed a little bit. This one's not blocking my vision, it's more here. More of a traditional way for some of the ninjutsu styles is to actually have the hand here to protect the neck, all right? With the back of the hand being exposed, protecting the tender part inside the arm. So you could do this, or you can bring it out. I feel a little more comfortable bringing it out just a little bit. Also, my hand position in here and it's not all the way out there. It's not saying, hey, grab my fingers and pull me off balance. It's kind of at an angle there that you can see. And again, it's not really close. Now, this would be, could be adjusted. For example, if it's a knife fight, I bring my hand in even closer. Of course, then typically my lead hand, which would be holding the knife in that situation also. All right. So, but we're talking about empty-handed for now. So, our left hand's out front. Over here again, left hand's out front, right hand's up by the head. Whenever we're throwing punches and attacks, we'll go more in details later. I'm always keeping one hand up, protecting my head with the opposite hand that's striking. As you can see from here, protecting it, keeping it up. So, importance of the stance is you don't want to fall down. You fall down the ground, get in the ground fighting, that's not your goal. On the street, if you go to the ground, it's good to have some skills for that. But you don't want to spend a lot of time down there, because you'll be trying to tie some guy up like a pretzel, and next thing you know, his buddy comes up behind you and bonks you on the head with a beer bottle. So our goal is more if we're going to be stand up, some takedowns involved, or we are still standing up. We may do some videos with some involving some ground fighting, so you have some skills with that. All right, but typically most of it will be more stand up fighting, which is what I would recommend you focus more on in the street. All right, so to recap again. This is like a standard combat fighting stance. Knees bent, bring it up, hands up. Or a modified version, as you have your hands here, your knees are still slightly bent, your feet are just in a little bit closer, not so aggressive position, but we can still easily step back into here from this position here. All right, and that's the video on the fighting stance. Check us out online at forwardfm.com. or on Twitter at Primal Hippie. Thanks for watching.